Let me show you a number that gives you a headache. The Fed's own data show that. I'm talking about the actual investigation of consumer finance, not some clickbait blogs. Only about 4.6% of American households have a retirement account of $1 million or more. 4.6%. Zoom in on people who are now effectively retired. That number slipped to nearly 3%. Every time you see one of the news shouting, you need $1.46 million to retire comfortably. Remember this, 96 of every 100 Americans have never approached that number. Either way, most retired. Today, we're going to analyze in detail who these million-dollar retirees are, how they succeeded. No one wants to talk. That is, whether $1 million is the right target. Stick to my point, because math at the end of the semester will surprise you. Let's get started. This opening figure comes from the Consumer Finance Survey in 2022. The Fed runs every 3 years. It is the gold standard, covering 131 million American households. Employee Welfare Institute, a nonpartisan group in Washington, D.C., has been tracking such things for decades. A closer look at these numbers is grim. About 4.7% of Americans hold retirement accounts of $1 million or more. Only 1.8% exceeded $2 million. 0.8% means less than 1%. The total is more than 3 million. Here is where it gets interesting. By age, the group most likely to become retired millionaires is not actually retirees. 55 to 64 people are still working, still contributing, still dominating the market. About 9.2% of those households have seven-figure incomes. They retired for a second time and began cutting back. That number is falling fast. Look at the typical retiree. According to the Federal Reserve, the average household aged 65 to 74 has about $609,000 in retirement savings. Sounds good on the surface. But the real median American middle class, just $200,000. For families 75 and older, things got worse, with a median of $130,000. A smart real estate survey released in January 2026 showed that the typical retiree was only $288,700. 29% of retirees reported zero retirement savings. Not low, zero. When TikTok tells you that everyone you know is secretly rich, the numbers are inconsistent. Stop here. All right, because most YouTube videos completely hide the next point. That matters. Look at the gap. Average 609,000 to 200,000 median. That is about 3 times the difference. It tells you everything about American retirement. A small group of very wealthy families raised the average. That is why Pioneer's How America Saves report shows the same pattern. The average 401k balance in 2024 was $148,000, but the median was only $38,000. When someone tells you that Americans save an average of X money, they're basically describing a country that doesn't exist, because real Americans, middlemen, can't help it. This is the same trap as the 401k Millionaire headline. Fidelity hit record highs almost every quarter. According to data released on the 20th of November, the number of millionaires as of mid-2025 was 59,401K, higher in the third quarter. That sounds big until you remember that Fidelity manages the accounts of more than 24,401K participants. Come on, that still accounts for about 2.4% of its own customer base. And because one person can hold multiple accounts, the true share of 1 million people is even lower. The millionaire next door exists. He is just rarer than the internet wants you to believe. So, who succeeded? Some patterns recur. The first is the most obvious. They started early, not in their 40s, but in their 20s. Compounding doesn't care if you're in a hurry. It cares about your schedule. Another family makes $70,000 a year from age 30. Save 10%, return 7%. Click 65 million times. By age 35, the savings rate will jump to 15% of income. 4, 15. To be honest, you're looking at a completely different math problem. The second model is that these people never stop contributing, even if it hurts. That is where the story gets darker. With the fourth quarter 2025 research report released by Allianz Retirement Future Center in January 2026, 51% of American adults have reduced or stopped retirement contributions in the past 6 months. That is half the country's retreat when they should not. Third, to be honest, they have access. You typical white households have about 8 times as much wealth as typical black households, according to the Labor Department. The American Association of Retirees AARP reported in 2023 that among all racial groups, black employees aged 51 to 64 are the least likely to hold retirement accounts. A study by MIT Sloan found that redistributing just $300 billion a year in retirement tax incentives could close the racial retirement gap by about a third. It tells you that the system rewards those who already have the money to invest. This is no accident. The fourth model is more important than most people realize. Most have pensions, high-income spouses, or both. The Congressional Research Service found that 45% of households 65 and older expect to receive income from fixed-income pensions. Only 24% were under 55. The elder generation is dying. The man behind them flew without a net. Here are my weekly comments. Is $1 million enough? The annoying answer is that it depends on, but let me give actual numbers, not vibrations. Northwest Mutual Planning and Progress Study is a citation. In 2024, Americans said they needed $1.46 million to retire comfortably. That number dropped to $1.26 million in 2025. Then, when the report was released in April 2026, it jumped back to $1.46 million. This suggests that Americans cannot even identify with themselves year after year. Run the actual numbers. $1 million and the classic 4% rule. In 1994, driven by William Bengen, a financial planner, you spend $40,000 a year, or $3,333 a month, plus Social Security. Among them, as of 2024, the average monthly income of retired employees is about $1,900. Retirees earn about $62,000 a year, plus $1 million in Social Security. A couple is collecting, and they can easily push $80,000. The median household income in the United States is about $80,000. This means that, statistically, $1 million retirees, better than the average American worker. But there is one problem. Math assumes you retire in a low-cost field. If you don't pay your mortgage, healthcare won't ruin you. Medicare does not cover long-term care. In nursing homes, they can run 6 figures a year. The mathematical model also assumes that inflation remains reasonable. Inflation of 2.7% in 2025 is not inevitable. Is $1 million enough? For most people, in most places, there is no major health crisis. Yes, probably. Not even retirees with chronic illnesses in Manhattan or San Francisco. The truth is in the middle. The financial media, too, has a huge incentive to keep goalpost high for fear of selling subscriptions. This is where we don't have time. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRI, 2024 Retirement Expenditure Survey asked retirees to rate their life satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10 points. The average was 6.9, down from 7.0 in 2022 and 7.4 in 2020. Satisfaction is slipping, not because $300,000 retirees are starving. That is because few people plan to do 3 things. First, health care. Fidelity estimates that for a 65-year-old couple, today, retirement will cost about $315,000 just for medical expenses during retirement. It is not vacation money, it is survival. Second, longevity. People now typically live to their 90s. That means 65-year-olds may need their portfolio to last 30 years, not 20. The shift changed the math of each withdrawal rate calculation. Third, income sequence risk, which is a killer. If the market crashes the year you retire, like many people who retired directly from the recession in 2008 or 2022, you can do everything well, but you still don't have the money because you sell stocks at the bottom just to pay the bills. That is why I keep telling people on this channel that the $1 million figure is not magical, because how you cut costs is as important as how much money you save. Let's take this home. If you're watching a movie, you're behind. Statistically, most of you are looking, and here is an honest reading. Retirement doesn't cost $1 million. You need a plan. A retired teacher with a $50,000 pension. A paid-up house. The Irish Republican Army has 200,000 functional millionaires. Because the pension's investment assets are worth about $1.25 million, the annual return is 4%. Stop using 4.6% as a benchmark because they are outliers. The real question is whether you have $1 million. The real question is whether your retirement income is enough to cover your expenses. Whether you have a home that pays off your mortgage or a stable home. Whether or not your healthcare is locked in. And whether your portfolio is diversified enough to survive a bad 5-year period. If all 4 answers are yes, you're fine. If they refuse, and you are 50 or older, this is a conversation with yourself this weekend, not 5 years from now. One more thing to know. The savings race under the Security 2.0 Act began in 2027. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development estimates that 21.9 Americans will qualify. Basically, if you are low and middle income, the federal government gives you as much as $1,000 a year in retirement contributions. If this describes you, note that because it is the free money, most people are about to leave on the table. So how many Americans retire with $1 million or more? The answer is between 3% and 5%, depending on how the data is sliced. The other 95% concluded in another way. As savings dwindle, Social Security and sometimes pensions repay housing and a willingness to live within our means. $1 million is a good number, but that is not the line between dignity and disaster. If this works for you, do me a favor. Subscribe and comment on retirement locations. See you next time. Take care.